So after 8 years of schooling, then you go into residency?
Yeah, then you just start residency. And you're just like accruing debt the whole time. Like you're just like taking out loans and you're not seeing your family. Like one of my friends missed the birth of his kid because he was on his 4th year rotation, and it's so high stress. If you leave, it can mess up your whole trajectory. So what you have to do is you have to build a foundation or a scaffold of information. So that's what we're doing in high school and undergrad. We're taking biology and we're learning how the cells work and the body works and physiology and what the name of a bone is. You're building a foundation the first bunch of years. In medical school, the people that have the easiest time are the Catholics, because Catholics learn Latin and how to speak Latin. Your bones are reliant on the muscle attachment to the bone, meaning your bones are only as strong as they need to be. My wife went into labor once at night, and I was in the hospital working, and she had to call the nurse's station to get to me in the physician's office, like in my physician, they call it suite or whatever, because I didn't have reception. And then I had to meet her at the hospital.
All right, Brian Singer, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, thank God. How are you doing?
Good, thank God. Welcome to Miami, first of all.
Yeah, very happy to be here.
Coming from New York, pretty miserable place, huh?
Yeah, and it's just been brutal lately. So being able to
It's
look outside.
It's been hot lately, from what I hear.
Yeah, it's been like humid and sticky and mosquitoes, and yeah, does not make for a fun life.
Hey, it's a good place to make money though.
Got that right.
And there's a lot of people there, a lot of Jews, a lot of community.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of start at the beginning. I want to touch on a bunch of topics today.
Cool.
But I guess first is, being that you're a doctor, right? I want to get into how you got there. A lot of people see people that are doctors and they're like, oh, it must be nice, but like they don't know how many years it took, the struggle, the debt, everything. Yeah. So I kind of want to start kind of your journey on being a doctor. Like, what were you like, oh, I'm so inspired, I want to be a doctor because you want to help people? Was it like just something you kind of had a knack for, and you're like, hey, I'm smart, and like, this is what I want to do. I feel like I'm going to make a difference? Or I guess we'll start there, and then we'll kind of get into a bunch of different topics.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a great question. I think my story is like a lot of my colleagues, my other doctor friends. I always wanted to be a doctor. It was like for sure the way I was going. I was always dressing up as a doctor, my permanent stuff. I was always making forts and stitching up bears. And like, ever since I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, I knew I was going to be a doctor. That was like the trajectory. And then everything in my life kind of steered me that way. It's a very long and hard process. You are entering a hyper-competitive field every stage of the way. So to become a doctor nowadays, it means you finish high school. That's like everyone finishes high school. And then you go through undergraduate education. So for the typical person, that's like 4 years of undergraduate education in order to get a bachelor's degree. That's a prerequisite to getting into medical school. So you finish high school, you go through 4 years of undergrad, plus or minus a year or two, and then you enter medical school. Medical school itself is a 4-year process. So that is rigorous didactics, which is like classroom-based learning, where you're going through books and you're memorizing disease processes, and you're going from like the molecular level of understanding of the human anatomy and the body all the way up to disease processes. So you, as a physician, you have a full understanding of the human body to the best of our ability, from the cellular level up to how that impacts you on a day-to-day basis. So that's like the first 2 years of medical school. And the second 2 years of medical school is clinical rotations. So once you've like mastered and you've taken a test called USMLE Step 1, you pass this test, and then you can go on to the second half of medical school. And it's different everywhere. But the second half of medical school then is the clinical training. So this is like a grueling 80 hours a week. You're on rotations for family medicine, for surgery, for emergency medicine. You're just going through the grind like an apprenticeship almost, but it's medical. Then you graduate medical school. So that's 4 years of medical school training where you get all the foundations to like see and treat a patient. After that, you enter something called residency. Residency/internship this is where you diverge and you decide what you want to be when you grow up. So I chose physical medicine and rehabilitation, but a lot of people are more familiar with like family medicine or orthopedic surgery. Those are all different types of residencies. So after undergrad and medical school, you specialize in some sort of field.
So after 8 years of schooling, then you go into residency?
Yeah, then you just start residency. And you're just like accruing debt the whole time. Like you're just like taking out loans, and you're not seeing your family, you're missing, you're like, oh no, that was in residency. But like one of my friends missed the birth of his kid because he was on his 4th year rotation, and it's so high stress. If you leave, it can mess up your whole trajectory, because along this whole way you're relying on letters of recommendation and grades and scores, and if you mess up in one step of it, it could derail your entire process. So after those 8 years of what I call like training and education.
And then how many hours of those days of the first 8 years? It's like,
oh my God. I mean, in undergrad, I mean, it's what you put into it, honestly. So like everyone puts in a different amount. So if you're really smart, you can put in less. And if you're like me and you're a little less smart, then you just put in more. So like in undergrad, you're maybe studying 6-8 hours a day plus going to classes. Because like if you're taking things like biology, organic chemistry, these like intense undergraduate classes, then just going to class is like a tenth of the battle. The learning and the memorizing is the meat of it, and it takes you're studying until 10, 11 at night. It's a very, very hard journey. And in medical school, I basically just lived in the library. We all had our pods and we all had our setups, and you go to school from like 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. And then you take breaks or you see your family or whatever, and as a firm person, it's much harder because you have to dive in and you have to learn and you have all these things that happen along with it. But the average person is spending probably 8 to 10 hours a day studying for those 8 years.
oh, wow.
At least that's what I did and all my friends did.
And then how do you retain all the information? Because like for me, it goes in 1 year, out the other. Same thing with like Gemara. Like if I don't do Chazara, and it doesn't end. It's probably just, you keep building. So it's like a foundation in medical school where you build on that foundation, or it's like, okay, we're doing a new topic, or just like they jump around and you have to just retain that information.
So there's a few schools of thought for the learning process. One of the key fundamentals, like you said, is Chazara. So in the Jewish world, it's called Chazara. In the secular world, it's called time-space repetition. So what you have to do is you have to build a foundation or a scaffold of information. So that's what we're doing in high school and undergrad. We're taking biology and we're learning how the cells work and the body works and physiology and what the name of a bone is. You're building a foundation the first bunch of years, just so you can scaffold knowledge later on and then anchor it to a topic you already know. So you build a strong foundation those first 8 years, and that's your scaffolding. You're just building a whole structure that you can then attach other things onto. And so that's premise one. And then premise two is like Chazara, so that's time-space repetition. So once you've built a foundation of knowledge or a scaffold of things that you know and like you understand, you know all the bones of the body, you know how a cell works, you know just basic like microbiology, then you can start specializing on the knowledge base, right? So my understanding of anatomy is much greater than most of my colleagues because I have to master all the bones. So now that I know that there's like 8 bones in the hand, right? Like in the wrist, there's like the carpal bones, right? Mm-hmm. So like one of them is the hamate, right? So most doctors will know what a hamate is. It's a bone like right here. So everyone kind of knows that scaffold. We all have that foundation. But then when I'm in my training, I have to know every part of the hamate. There's the hook of the hamate. There's the body of the hamate. There's different nerves and vessels that go to this bone in order to give it life and function. And you can damage that bone in many different ways. You can fall on it. You can box and you can crack it. So once you have that scaffolding and that knowledge, then you can apply specific advanced information to that and kind of anchor it onto that foundational knowledge. And then how do you retain it? So once you have a structure that you can anchor things onto, it's easier to retain. Because when somebody tells me one thing, I already know a lot about this, so I can just like plug another piece of knowledge into that thing. But it's really a concept called time-space repetition.
So it's just more calculated review.
Yeah. So time-space repetition is like Chazara, but it's like calculated review. So like you learn something on day 0, and then you review it on day 1, so the next day. And then 7 days later, you review that topic. It could be a really brief, just looking at the notes or thinking about it or doing a flashcard. So you have day 0, day 1, day 7, and then day 30, and then like 1 year after. So it's funny, like I'm studying now for my boards, right? So I'm getting questions.
What are the boards?
Okay, so the boards in medicine,
I know nothing about
a ton of tests. So the whole way you're really in undergrad and med school and residency, and you're just forever taking tests. So the final test you take is called the boards. So like you'll hear that doctors are board certified or board eligible or don't have boards. Boards is a specialty specific test that you take in order to qualify as like an expert in that field. Or
so in like a niche, whatever niche you're in, you would have to go take a board for that.
Exactly.
Whether that's surgery, whether that's whatever it is.
Exactly. So like orthopedic surgery has its own board. My board is the American Board of Physical Med and Rehabilitation. So like we all have our different boards. But like I saw a question recently, and it was literally a question from first year of medical school. So like everything just kind of makes its way around. But it's that concept of time-space repetition, and then eventually you remember everything, and then there comes a phase where you start shedding knowledge. Because once you specialize, then you don't have to know all the other stuff. So like I forget a lot of the complex GI stuff that I know. Like I used to know the whole bowel and every part of it. I've dumped that because I don't need to know about the cecum or the jejunum as much as a pain doc. So like with time, because I'm not doing.
And where all these where all these medical words come from? Are they Latin based? Because I always hear all these words. I'm like, it must be from like, it's all Latin based.
Yeah, they're all Latin based. In medical school, the people that have the easiest time are the Catholics, because Catholics learn Latin and how to speak Latin, because all of the like Socrates or whoever like it was whoever created medicine or whatever, they were all Latin. So everything has Latin origin, which is nice because then it's easier to understand and to decipher, but you have to learn a tremendous amount of these Latin core words.
Interesting. So now we talked about kind of building like all this knowledge and building the, you used to call like scaffolds of different pillars, and you build on that and then you get into your niche. So let's talk about, since it's kind of like this podcast is also business, I want to get into building debt. So how do you go about building debt? Like, no, it's in a serious way. Like, let's say someone's like actually interested. They're like, hey, this is my knack. This is something I find interesting. I always wanted to help people. I just don't have the money. I can't afford, 500, whatever it costs, 500 grand, 230, whatever the number is, right? So how do you go about getting your loans? What does it cost? Like, how much debt does an average doctor, I'm not going to ask about your specifics and get into that, but I'm saying like doctors in general, what type of debt can you expecting before you start making money?
It's brutal. I mean, it's like suffocatingly brutal. My friend's like, your whole life is dictated by this amount of debt because it's so much. So I think the average physician nowadays is taking out around $250,000 in debt by the end of medical school training. And then remember, after medical school, you have 5 years or whatever of residency.
So that's just 250 grand in schooling. Not in like your car, your house, your payment. Like, let's say, because you don't have time to work another job.
It's just like, you literally have no time. So that's like, I mean, you could use that debt to like pay your mortgage or pay for your car or whatever. So I think it captures the living expenses a little bit as well, because you're not working. So you're using that loan money to survive. But the average debt is about $250,000.
After how many years?
And that's after 8 years.
Okay.
But that's medical school debt. So if you have undergrad debt, so somebody wants to go to a fancy Ivy League or somebody wants to go to a big name school where they're not getting an in-state scholarship, then you're adding on another $200,000 in debt.
You'd be $500,000 in debt.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon. Or if you like don't get into an American medical school and you have to go to the Caribbean or go somewhere crazy to get medical school training, they're taking $500,000 in debt on average.
Because it costs more to go. Interesting.
Yeah, if you go abroad, they charge you more because it's easier to get in, so they charge you more to go through it. Like
so then your average, like, I know nothing about this whole like the medical industry. Yeah. Besides my cute little EMT knowledge,
which is a lot.
Which is maybe 1/20th, not even of what a doctor knows, or maybe what you learned in the first
1/20th.
I mean, whatever, the first month of what you learned, probably whatever, and then I forgot most of it, anyways. But actually, I actually saved 2 people with it so far. One was actually really scary. My son, he was choking on a checkers piece. Like, he was playing with it and it went in his mouth and it went in his throat. And I turned white for a second. I was like, all right, like, nothing you can do. Is I had my wife call cell at the same time, and I just went straight to like my training that I learned. Wow. And I'm not an experienced EMT by any means, and I did the back blows, and thank God I went flying out.
Wow. And
another time I was in a restaurant.
Wait, let's pause.
Whatever.
Let's pause.
We'll get to that. Go ahead.
Let's do a 5-second, because this could save a life.
Yeah.
A back blow. So you said back blow. So anyone watching your podcast.
What, did I say backbone right now?
Back blow. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, so depends on the age of the kid, how old they are, right?
If somebody has no training, they should at least know this.
But I just want to say, standing straight up, you're never supposed to go and hit the back. A lot of people see someone choking, they go from behind. Right. I held my kid across my forearm forward. He was like 1 year old, and then did back blows to get to lodge it out.
Yeah, so if anyone in your podcast, first of all, everyone should go through CPR training. If you have a kid or around kids, you should go through CPR training. Everyone. It should be like a requirement in all places and all people. But if you haven't gone through it and you see yourself in this situation, that's all you have to do. You take the kid, what you said, you put the kid face down on you, you hold their chest here, and you just hit the back blow. So you lay them down across your arm, back blow. That alone could save someone's life. But you did it, and you saved your kid's life.
Thank God. It's wild.
I do it too often. Every time my kid starts choking, I'm like, back blow.
But there's also the Heimlich. I mean, depending on the age.
Yeah, if they get older or whatever,
but yeah. Okay, we just got to talk it for a second. But no, it was interesting. So that was we talked about my limited experience in the medical world.
Yeah.
Right. So what was I asking again? I was talking about the debt, right? So you have about $500K in debt.
Yeah, we'll call it 250.
Let's call it 250, right? So when can someone expect to make money? Like, do they go get a job at a hospital? Is that what most people do? Or do they go be more entrepreneurial and open to practice? Like, how does that work?
So we'll back up a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll preface with, I am the exception to the rule, the way I went across things. Backing it up. So you finish 8 years undergrad in medical school, and then you go into residency. So residency is when you get your first paycheck. The average resident makes between like $50,000 and $80,000. So after 8 years of training and becoming a doctor,
You have a nurse making more than you.
you're making less than your nurses, your PTs, most of my janitors. Like, you are the bottom of the pay totem pole, and you have to survive on that for the 3 to 5 years you're in residency, and interest on all your loans is accumulating, and you have to pay a minimum payment.
And you have to take more loans out probably to continue having kids.
Yeah. If you're taking out credit card loans, you're taking out mortgages, you're taking out, yeshiva loans, you're getting breaks, whatever. But yeah, it's brutal.
So who do you, I mean, I might sound stupid asking these questions, but where does someone go to get these loans? There's just special programs, I'm assuming, for
All
doctors.
the schools have like these federal loans or whatever. They charge you like 6%, 8%, whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's all through federal loans for the most part. We'll see what happens in the future.
Maybe I'll get pardoned if a liberal win the next term.
Yeah.
Or your new mayor.
God willing, because then it's,
Maybe your new mayor, what's his name?
Want to know his name.
Zamdani? I don't even know.
Zamdani or something.
His name. This guy's nuts.
But yeah, because there is an icing, so it's unfair to not talk about the other part. So then when you're done so I finished 13 years of training, right? So by the end of 13 years, then you become a doctor, right? And then you're making money. The average physician is probably making between 200 to 250 a year. Mm-hmm. And then if you're specialized, 3 to 350. And then if you're a surgeon, 4 or 5. So those are like,
and that's starting essentially.
And that's starting.
Once people get big practices,
And then then you're making 250 a year, and the vast majority are employed physicians nowadays. So that means you finish all of your training, and then you go to the nearest hospital. You say, I want to work here, and you get a job there. Very low amount of growth. You have very low incentive for working for them. They give you a salary, you clock in, you clock out type, and there is some growth. And people will talk about, you get X amount of dollars if you do X amount of procedures or see X amount of patients, you'll get more money. But really, you are a employee, and you're getting paid basically a salary to be a doctor in the vast majority of situations.
Mm-hmm. So that's like a W-2 situation, but a high-paying W-2.
Yeah. So it's unfair to say that like we don't make a lot of money, because we do make much higher than the median income. But it takes us, you're not making money till 34. So my friends that are like 20, like we had a friend in yeshiva who just went to medical school, and I told him every day, I was like, you have 3 kids right now, and you cannot go to medical school. Like, you're just too far away from making money to pay your bills.
Like $2 million in debt.
Yeah, it's like you're going to be crippled by the time you're actually making what our friends that went into business are making. You have to really want to be a doctor nowadays, because it's so long and it's really hard and it's very expensive, and you make less than your neighbors. Like in the 5 towns, I'm the poorest on the block. And I will always be the poorest on the block, probably.
It's a wild thought. No, it's crazy. I mean, 13 years is like, it's almost like, I don't know, a decade and a half or so.
Yeah.
So how did you go about choosing like what you wanted to specialize in, right? So I'm just kind of getting all this clear. So you did 8 years of schooling, then you go into residency, and that's when you decide like what niche you want to pick.
Yeah. So.
And then what brought you into what you do?
Yeah, so
you do pain rehabilitation, if I've got that correct?
Yeah, so I do, at the end of the day, it's called like Interventional Pain Management.
Okay.
And it's under the umbrella of like physiatry or physical med and rehab. Most people haven't heard of most of those components.
Is that like holistic?
It is. It's more holistic than a lot of other specialties. And we pride ourselves in that.
So you're not just going to give me a bunch of shots?
No, totally not. You won't even qualify for shots for the first 3 or 6 months in my practice, I chose my practice. Most from people have to choose their practice based off of lifestyle a little bit. So I cut out half of the fields immediately. So I couldn't be a neurosurgeon. I couldn't be an orthopedic surgeon. I couldn't be an ER doctor. Like any of these things where you're working on shop preemptive, totally out. Anywhere that and there are some people that are from that work, like whatever, ask your LOR.
Yeah.
I asked Rip Chacon. He said, nope, it was a no. So,
if everyone listening, LOR stands for local Orthodox rabbi.
Yeah. Or if you don't have one, then you can do whatever you want. Yeah. But, for me, I chose based off lifestyle. It narrowed me down to just a few fields that I could go into. And then the field I went into is something I really love, because I can, as a physiatrist and a pain doctor, you can make a huge meaningful impact in people. It's actually crazy. I finished my time in New Jersey, and I was driving into New York. And on my drive into New York, I had a call from somebody in the 5 towns. She calls me, when's your office open? A month. I can schedule you in a month. Wow, that's really not going to work for me. I really wanted someone sooner. Do you know anyone else around or that could help us? And I was like, there's like this person there. Just tell me what's going on. Maybe I could give you some advice. her mom fell, a bubby, 92 years old. She fell. She was bedridden. She had been in bed for a week. And when you're in bed for a week, you get clots and you get ulcers and you can wither away and die. That's what happens in these nursing homes a lot of times. She said, it's been a week. Can't get an appointment anywhere. Somebody told me that you're in the 5 towns and you do physiatry. And I said, my practice isn't open, but I'm moving anyway and I have time. I'll stop by the house. I'll come see what's going on because it sounds like really bad. And they didn't want to go to the hospital. They were scared after the COVID and the this and the that. They don't like going to hospitals anymore.
Yeah, but since COVID, a lot of people lost trust in hospitals.
Yeah.
Just because I think they were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to get to that whole conversation, but especially in places like Canada.
Yeah.
You go to the hospital and you never come back.
Yeah, totally. And so I went there, and she's bedridden. She couldn't walk. She couldn't move. And I ended up diagnosing a hip fracture. I got her, emergent imaging in an outpatient center. We saw what was going on. I figured out what was safe for her to do and to start doing rehab. Reset up the entire room so that she could go from the bed to the chair, so that she could go to a commode, so that she could regain function, so that she could go to the Shabbos table in a wheelchair, and then advance the physical therapist in the house. So I went into this field to help people with function, quality of life, and pain. And this was whoa, I actually can do all of that because I gave her the ability to know that it was safe to do X maneuver, even though she had a hip fracture. It was a certain type of hip fracture that you can kind of mobilize and you can do some safe stuff with. I can do medications to help tamper it, multimodal medication approach, lidocaine patches, Tylenol, muscle relaxer, basic things just to help her be able to move and prevent from withering away in bed. And quality of life, I got her to the Shabbos table. When she was laying in bed, she was not talking. Her daughter talked everything. And I said, even if there's a hip fracture, we could sit up. I can help you move into a comfortable position, get the blood flowing a little more. She sat up in bed, whole different lady, conversing, laughing, talking. Because I think when you're laying in bed, you're just comatose. You and me, I'm comatose.
Yeah, when I was during
done.
COVID, I was calling you.
Yeah, in bed.
I was stuck for a week. I couldn't it was rough.
And so that's what I do.
I was 20 then.
Yeah, and that's what doctors do. We take in the whole and especially in my field as pain management. That's why I went into it, because I want people to have a better quality of life. I want them to have a better functional output, so they can walk farther, they can do more, they can lift their kids up, and I want them to do all of this with less pain.
So you're kind of I guess not anti-surgery, but you try to prevent it as much as possible.
Totally try. I mean, there's 2 studies that are really interesting to think about. There's a study that looked at knee replacement surgery. So when you have really bad arthritis and you can't walk anymore, you get a knee replacement, right? That's what everyone's heard of. They did a study where they looked at patients that had a sham study. They did 2 incisions on the knee and then nothing else. And then they did the full knee surgery on other people, right?
Okay.
Then they looked at how were their pain outcomes after this study. Did they do so much better with the knee replacement surgery and totally no improvement in the sham study? Meaning the study where they did nothing? Turns out they did basically the same pain-wise, because the mind is so powerful when it comes to pain and the way we process pain. Because think if you get pricked on your finger, right? Yeah. This has to go from here all the way up the arm through a ton of nerves, brachial plexus into the spine, and then up into the brain for processing, for you to know how to react to that, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on to relay pain throughout the body. And it's a tremendous opportunity to modulate that. So the study showed that the patients that actually did not have knee surgery basically did just as well as patients that had knee surgery, pain-wise. And that's an incredible thing. There's a second study.
It's like a placebo, essentially.
It's the placebo effect. Most people know it. There's another study that said, if we tell them it's a placebo, will it still work? This is a huge study on migraine patients. They took migraine patients and they said, hey, we're going to give you a placebo pill. It's a placebo pill, but take it every time you have a migraine or when your headaches are coming or when you know it's really, really bad. But just take this placebo pill, see if it helps. Guess what?
Didn't help at all.
Totally helped.
Really? Even though they knew about it?
They knew it was a placebo. They knew the pill they were working was just a sugar pill, and they still did better because they went through the motion of taking the pill. They had something in their brain wired that this process should be helping with pain because they're used to taking pills for pain.
Interesting.
And just the thought.
Just the cue.
Just the cueing. Just activating that part of the amygdala in the brain that processes sensory input was able to modulate their actual perception of pain. It's incredible. And we use it in all parts of our practice now.
So how do you go about intervening? Let's say, God forbid you have not God forbid it happens every day, but you have a woman who's 70, 80 years old.
Yeah.
Everyone's do a hip replacement, right? She needs surgery. A lot of times what I've seen.
If I sent this lady to the hospitaal, she would have had a surgery.
right?
Would have totally ripped her open. And
a lot of people give them surgery, and then while they're healing from that surgery is usually when they die, because they're in bedridden and it gets infected, or it just they can't go through PT at 80 years old. You know what I mean? A lot of them. So how do you intervene and I guess prevent surgery when it's not necessary? Like what are actual practices, if you can dumb it down to regular people language on like things that you go through to help them do that? Yeah.
So big asterisk before we start, you need surgery when you need surgery. So if her fracture was in a different part of the bone, I would have gotten her surgery that day, whatever. Her fracture, I talked to an orthopedic surgeon also, it was in an okay spot that you could just deal with. If you want to avoid being in her situation altogether, the easiest things to do are light aerobic activity. That means you keep walking for as long as you can in life, okay? If you go to the store, park a little farther, and then walk into the store. If you're in the store, don't take a shopping cart when you need, don't take a motorized shopping cart if you can walk around. My bubby, she's 90 years old. I will never let her use a motorized shopping cart. She could shop more. It would be easier. She wouldn't have to take rest breaks. But once you start modifying your activities, that's when you deteriorate. So I tell people, park far and walk a lot. If it's hot or it's miserable, go to a mall. You'll go to a mall, you see old people walking around, laps, right? Socialize. You have to stay social. Zoom barely counts, phone barely counts. You need that face-to-face interaction. You need that rush of life and interaction. You can't lock yourself in. So you need to keep walking or have light aerobic activities. You need to stay social, whether it's in shul or even just if you go to the mall and you're walking, schmooze with someone, say hi or compliment somebody's dog or kid or something, and make that social interaction if you're not getting it. And sleep. You need, especially as you get older, you really actually need less sleep. Everyone needs to get an appropriate amount of sleep to what their body needs. And range of motion. So like, people don't think about it a lot, but over time, everything stiffens up. It gets tight, right? Yeah. So like a lot of people, I think you do this every morning, like a stretch routine, like their exercise
mobility.
Routine. Yeah, your mobility. So you can look it up on YouTube. You can do whatever feels good. When you wake up or throughout the day at some point, spend 10 minutes stretching, bring the arm across the body, do something that feels good, move your neck around. These light range of motion activities have a tremendous impact on the body's ability to prevent further injury.
Mm-hmm. Or so you're saying prevent it like long term, because there's like a famous cliche saying that's like, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah. In my field, we see it's called adhesive capsulitis. And a lot of people have known somebody that has this. So you hurt your arm or your shoulder, or you get surgery or something, and then you don't move the arm for a while. You get in a sling, right? So you're slinged, and then you take the sling off, or your shoulder stops hurting, so you try to move it, but now you can't. So that process itself is called adhesive capsulitis, meaning the capsule of the shoulder literally adheses to your body, and it just stops. You just like lose that range. So if you don't use it, a part of your body, you will lose it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like when I broke my finger in high school or elementary school. I guess it's all messed up.
That's a pretty weird looking finger.
Yeah,
did you show it to the camera?
That's no, I'm not gonna show it to the camera. I'll freak people out. But they put a cast on because they had to keep it like stabilized, and then my arm was like as thin as my bone after 2 months. So I guess it's like, oh, we don't need this muscle. Let's just tone it down.
It just totally atrophies, and then getting that muscle back is hard. Yeah. And sometimes you can't get it back. Sometimes it's like you can get something called fibrosis or like fatty infiltration, where the muscle, it dies, and then the body's like, okay, there's no muscle there, but something has to go there. So your body will put in like fat or something into that area. And then it's really hard to ever get the muscle back. Mm-hmm. So when you lose it, sometimes you can't ever, a lot of times I can get it back, but I see lots of people who, once you lose it, it's gone. You don't see a chance.
Uh-huh. And I mean, it's something I'm passionate about is strength training, fitness, but like it's only, I'll probably go like 3 times a week now. Yeah. So it's becoming a lot more, I guess, I don't know, cool, but no, I wouldn't say cool, but like even old people who are not, it used to be, let me just backtrack here. I'm getting ADHD, but it used to be that people who like strength train, right? For everyone listening, like weight training, right? Yeah. Resistance training, another word to use, was just for like the cool kids or like the guys who wanted to get buff. And it was always just like the people who wanted to be
kids.
Yeah, whatever. The kids
I never strength trained.
Yeah. The kids who wanted to be like just, or like the nerds would just go jogging, right?
Yeah.
But now we're seeing a big shift in the fitness world, at least because I'm very involved in the fitness world.
Yeah.
And all the people I speak to that are fitness experts are saying like, it used to be like I was saying, like, it's just like everyone would run and like only like the meatheads would lift weights. Right. But now everyone's starting to see in modern medicine the benefits of strength training. Even you have like these grannies in the gym now that are 60, 70, 80 years old doing kettlebell swings, and they're walking with kettlebells, they're doing farmers carries. Yeah. They're doing a lot. It's like functional fitness, kind of CrossFit is becoming very popular, even amongst people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it's because it helps longevity. Yeah. So I'm curious, like, you know, someone like you as a doctor actually understands this. Why is that like, why is that really important for somebody in their 70s and 80s to be lifting weights and working on their mobility and hip exercises and all that type of stuff?
Right. So let's underscore the two divergent areas of exercise just to make it easy, right? So there's one area of exercise that we can call like aerobic activity that we just talked about a little bit.
Like more cardio?
This is cardio. This is getting your heart rate up, okay? So getting your heart rate up is good for your whole body, especially for the heart, the cardiovascular system. So there's recommendations. You do like 30 minutes, 5 days a week for 150 minutes a week. That's like the American Academy of Cardiology or whatever.
Is that like, what's 10,000 steps a day? Is that, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, so that's a big myth. That's like totally not something people should do. But if it gets you to that aerobic exercise, then it's okay. But like 10,000 a day steps has been shown time and time again in the literature not to actually benefit patients in the long run. So
interesting. So what does?
So it's like you said. So there's two routes. One you have to do is the 30 minutes a day of moderate activity. So that's walking at a brisk pace, where you can have a conversation, but you're not like heaving and hawing. That's like just do 30 minutes of that.
Like walking your dog.
Yeah, walking your dog and going quick, or like chasing your kid around. And everyone, you and me should be, I don't do it, but we should be doing that every day, or at least 5 days a week for 30 minutes at a time. That's the easiest thing to think about. And then what you said about the weights. So that's one part of the body. That keeps the heart healthy. When the heart's healthy, the brain works, the lungs work, everything works. The other part is, why are the grannies carrying kettlebells at the gym? It's actually fantastic. And not only grannies, but everyone should be doing it. Your bones are reliant on the muscle attachment to the bone, meaning your bones are only as strong as they need to be. So your bones, when you put weight on them through strength building, get stronger because the muscle pulls on the bone where it connects. And then when it pulls on the bone, it creates these like micro fractures and these like this bony breakdown, but then the body heals stronger and the bone gets stronger. So they've shown that weightlifting, and even in moderate amounts, 5-10 pounds, decreases the rate of osteoporosis and osteopenia. So by lifting weights, you're adding pressure to the bones and makes the bones stronger. Interesting part about bones is you only have until the age 30 to make the peak, I don't know what they call it, the cortical strength of the bone. Until age 30, you can take
your foundation?
You can take a ton of calcium and vitamin D until the age of 30 and strengthen up your bones, like just jam as much nutrients as possible into them. After 30, you can't. Now you're just preserving the level. So if I pump myself up, now I'm like, 32? If I pump myself up now,
you're down, you're too late.
It's like the ship has sailed. Like you need like some moderate amount, but I'm
going to go hard the next 5 years.
Yeah, I'm not building stronger bones. That phase of my life is over. So like my wife, she's younger than me and she's in that range. So she has kids, and when you have kids, you breastfeed and you need extra calcium. So every woman that's under 30 should be taking a calcium and a vitamin D supplement to help stock up the bones with those nutrients. But then you're like plateauing. So how do you keep the bones from getting brittle? Like when you're 80, the bones are just like sometimes crack. You have osteoporosis. How do you stop that from happening? So diet and exercise, enough calcium and vitamin D to like replace what's turned over. But these weight-bearing exercises are the key. So every time your muscle puts pressure onto the bone that it attaches to, it makes that bone stronger. So you, when you're 60, are going to have much better bones than I will. I don't lift weights. I never really did. I do enough because I know what I need to do, but your bones are going to be much stronger.
Interesting.
Your rates of arthritis are going to be lower if you do strength training around a joint. So when I send someone for physical therapy for like the knee, right, I'm strengthening the quads and all the muscles around the joint to help stabilize and support it. So the muscles can do some of the work and take off a load from the bones touching each other. So you'll probably have less arthritis when you're older because your muscles can compensate for that load because they're strong and they're stabilizing and everything's working nicely.
Interesting.
I don't exercise as much as you, so my knees are already hurting because I'm just relying on the bones connection to do all the work. My muscles are like pretty weak, they're there, but they're not stabilizing and supporting and offloading the pressure. The pressure is mainly going on the bone connections. So those are like the two areas that, not only old people, but everyone really has to think about is staying active on a regular basis and doing some sort of meaningful weight-based exercise. It could even be ankle weights. It could be, carrying your kid for like 10 minutes of the walk, or when you have the baby, like consciously, hold the baby, like hold the baby in different positions, or like I've even sometimes like you can do like tricep things with your baby. We all have like this
Yeah, I mean, I use my kid as like a kettlebell.
They're kettlebells.
Literally kettlebells.
Yeah. Don't swing them under, but yeah.
That's super interesting because I remember hearing a study, probably Andrew Huberman, but
fantastic. Yeah.
So he was talking about like people that are older, let's say 40, 50, 60, they should start focusing, like you're saying, on doing both, not just cardio. Because please tell me if I'm wrong, but if someone, let's say, is 50, 60, 70, and all they're doing is running, they're actually making their bones and their muscles weaker.
Yeah.
And the way he explained it was, if I understood it correctly, was because the body's kind of a smart machine. It's like, hey, we're doing 20 miles of running. Well, we don't need all this bicep muscle. We don't need this chest muscle. We don't need this quad. Like, we don't need all this extra muscle to do your light running, right? Because it kind of knows it's a machine. It's like, hey, let's be efficient. It's kind of, it turns into a Prius. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're like a Prius, right?
Yeah.
He's saying like your bones get...
You don't want to be a Prius.
You don't want to be a Prius. You know what I mean? Like he's saying your bones are like, look, we just need to run these 5 miles a day.
Yeah.
And we just need this amount of muscle. We don't need this extra, these lats or these shoulders. Like it doesn't help us be efficient. Like a body's an efficient machine. So he said when you just run, your body starts taking off a lot of muscle. You start losing that muscle tone, and then your bones get weaker. So you're saying the best is kind of just doing what you're saying is doing both, or what I like to do because I'm lazy, I mix both. So I'll do like CrossFit style workouts where you're keeping your heart rate really high, and you're doing like supersets, and you're doing kettlebell swings, and you're doing like sled pushes. But I don't know, it kind of mixes the two together.
Right, like they call that like HIIT training, right?
Yeah.
So
high intensity interval training.
Yeah. So HIIT training is really the best form of exercise you can do because it's like the marriage of both of them. So there is literature actually to support that you can really get away with like 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week instead of 30 minutes. You're doing like high intensity interval training, and that means you're like slogging. Your heart rate's at like 200, and you're lifting really heavy things.
No, I hate that. It's terrible.
No one can do that I know.
I'd rather work out 3-4 days a week for 45 minutes, like a regular functional training, strength training, like resistance style workout. Like,
but he's right, and it's like that same mantra carries over. Like if you don't use it, you lose it. So like if you're not lifting heavy things, because your muscles are made up of different types of muscle cells. So there's like fast twitch, slow twitch, aerobic, anaerobic. There's all these different types of muscle cells that are in the muscle. So if you work out a certain type of muscle fiber, that muscle fiber will grow and proliferate. If you don't use a different type of muscle fiber, it will become smaller. So there's muscle fibers for lifting heavy things. So if you lift heavy things, that muscle fiber will grow and then you have a big muscle. But you can also get bigger muscles from doing different types of activities, like running. So like they still have good muscle, it's just not huge or whatever. So they're just growing a different part of their muscle. But if you don't use it, you lose it. And he's right. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what his sources were, but you must have both. You must have.
Yeah, he's jacked.
Yeah, you must have like your heart rate.
And he also runs, like he can run like 5-10 miles.
Yeah, because he's having the perfect. Then he's having the perfect.
Yeah.
Whatever balance of it. He's getting his heart rate up with these like vigorous walking or running or whatever. Then he's lifting somewhat heavy things once in a while. Mm-hmm.
And then
you need both.
For the knees, you said you had knee issues. There's a guy, I don't know if you know him, knees over toes. Heard of this guy?
No.
Look him up on YouTube. He's like Joe Rogan made him huge because he talked about him, and I do a lot of jiu-jitsu guys do his workouts because we destroy our knees.
Yeah.
So he does specifically what people used to think in the fitness world, that if you squat with your knees over the toes, it's actually very bad for you.
Yeah. But
he actually goes against that whole svara and like tears that apart and does the opposite. Like I literally go to the gym and I warm up and I'll do sleds with my knees over my toes, pushing a sled. Yeah. And it strengthens I wouldn't understand any of this, but somehow, I do certain workouts he does and I haven't had any knee injuries yet. So thank God. Okay. So he kind of teaches your knees how to be more resilient. And you even see like old people in the workout doing these older people in the gym doing these workouts.
Yeah. I think you'll see a lot of fads in the fishing. I don't know if this guy's a fad. I don't really know anything about him. But you'll see a lot of fads, like maybe HIIT training's a fad, or knees over toes for sure is like a fad. Like that itself sounds like a fad. Like you'll always see these things like that you could choose to do or not.
Now hip mobility is the new fad.
Yeah, hip mobility.
Everyone's getting into hip mobility. It's like the new
pop
thing.
Their hips out. I see people doing crazy things. I mean, hip mobility and mobility of the joints is fantastic, and it helps prevent a lot of disease. But you have to be the right person. So like you are young, fit. You've always been, athletic. So like for you to do this knees over toes thing, probably won't hurt yourself. If I try to do knees over toes thing,
I will
be admitted to the hospital. I will not survive. So I think everyone just has to take it with a grain of salt. And like, if they master the basics, then they can go explore things. Yeah. If you're doing 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and you're lifting heavy things, once in a while, and you've mastered those two things, and you want to look onto something else, then you could find maybe like this, the hit or the knees over.
So when did you open your practice yet?
Vascular Surgery should be open in 3 weeks.
Okay, so by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be open.
Yeah.
Because this most likely will be released in a month from now, so everyone listening, when you're listening, probably this practice is probably open. We'll leave all that information below because I'm going to plug my
Pain
friend.
Medicine and Rehabilitation in the 5 towns of New York. Yeah.
Awesome. No, so what does a day in the life look like now, currently?
Yeah.
And
So it'll look, my day in the life.
It's probably going to change, obviously, but I'm saying.
I'll tell you what the day in the life of a pain doctor looks like, because that's what, when this comes out, that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
Day in the life of a pain doctor is really exciting. We're going to have 3 exam rooms in the clinic where we're doing patient visits. So when I meet somebody for a new patient evaluation or follow-up, it's about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, depending on how complex the issue is or what questions they have. You do a lot of face-to-face with patients in my world. So we're going through history. We're going through past medical history. We're going surgical history, medications, things you've done for your pain or for your disease process. Have you taken turmeric for your knees? Have you tried lidocaine patches? Have you taken Advil? Have you had a shot? Have you done physical therapy? You take a whole history of everything that's going on. When did the knees hurt? How bad is it? What's it inhibiting? You can't run 10 miles than you used to be able to. That's a different goal than the grandma who can't get out of bed to the bathroom, So a day in the life of a doctor on the physical, when you're seeing a patient, I'm evaluating and diagnosing and then coming up with an assessment and plan. So I'll spend, 20, 30 minutes talking to them, seeing what I think the problem is, and then doing a physical exam targeted on that area. And then I come up with an assessment. I say, okay, your knees hurt. You likely have knee osteoarthritis. There's, it's like Rice Krispies. When I open and close the knee,
Oh my God.
It's cracking, popping, whatever. And you're 70 and you used to play football. I'm like, you probably have knee osteoarthritis. Come up with a plan. So you see the patient, diagnose them to the best of your ability, then you come up with a plan. Okay, if you have knee arthritis, we should get an x-ray and see how bad it is. We should get you hooked up in physical therapy, start strengthening and offloading that joint. If you can't walk to the bathroom anymore, you might need some Tylenol or Advil or lidocaine patch or something, to make sure you can get around your activities of daily living. And then next steps, if the conservative therapy, which you have to try at first for sure, 50% of people will get better with just those first few things: physical therapy, lifestyle modification, diet modification, weight loss. 50% of people will get better. And God willing, everyone does, but not everyone's so lucky. Then if they don't get better, that's where the real hard stuff comes in. So what do we do now? Do we do a cortisone injection into the knee? If that's what you want, okay. Do we block the nerves? Do we destroy the nerves? Do I use neurostimulation, which is an advanced scientific, a new late-breaking scientific advancement where I can implant something and use electrical signals to modify.
Is that what stem cells is, or that's a whole other thing in Mexico?
No, but I do a lot of stem cell stuff, so we could talk about that. But that's one of the, actually just did for a D1 soccer athlete. He just went through a second round. I'm doing a protocol with him, which you do for people with mild or moderate osteoarthritis or arthritis pain, or for high-level athletes. So he's doing with me it's called PRP, or platelet-rich plasma. It's this type of, people call it stem cells. It's really PRP.
So PRP is stem cells, kind of.
People call it stem cells.
But what's the one that a lot of people in the fitness world talk about that's technically illegal? They go to Mexico to do it, and it's from the membrane of some animal. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying.
I don't recommend that because I don't know what that is.
It sounds sketchy, but I don't know. I'll ask you about it later. But
yeah, so regenerative medicine's huge. You can use the body's ability to heal itself through different things that we do. But that's what being a doctor is. You have to take the whole patient. Somebody comes in and asks me that question, I'd have to look into it, figure it out, see if it's ethical, legal, if there's any contraindications, and then come up with a plan together and then execute that plan. And then there's also days where I'm just in the OR all day. I'm doing injection surgeries, putting in pumps or spinal cord stimulators or fixation devices. And, you're in the OR 10 hours a day doing things to help people make it through their lives.
Wow. That's a long days.
Yeah. My
family
misses me.
Yeah, I guess mental health is also another thing. I want to lightly touch on it for doctors, because you guys are away. First we're talking about the debt, 13 years of schooling, and then it's just the long, grueling hours of being away for so long.
Yeah.
How do you balance all this?
Cry a lot. I don't know. It's really, really, it's not for the faint of heart, and it's really, really hard. And it's not only like the doctor that has to handle it, it's the spouse of the doctor. So like there's support groups and WhatsApp chats like for physician spouses. And my wife talks some of my doctor colleagues' wives sometimes when they're, when it gets really hard. When I was in training, in Shauna Rishona, like the first year of marriage, I was gone once, 25 hours every single week. So we got married, and then a few days later, I was gone in the hospital for 25 hours. My wife went into labor once at night, and I was in the hospital working, and she had to call the nurse's station to get to me in the physician's office, like in my physician, what do they call it, suite or whatever, because I didn't have reception. And then I had to meet her at the hospital. So it is a grueling life, and it's really, really hard. There's some things you can do you're like talking about burnout, right? That's what you're asking?
Yeah, burnout and like just like the mental bandwidth you need
you just have to
operate.
Remember why you do it. So like that patient I told you about, the 92-year-old Bobby that was in bed, she's why I do it, right? Her daughter texts me, she's up, she's feeling better, she's going to the bathroom on her own now, she went to the shops table, she's full of life. So you remember those patients, and those push you through to the next step. The D1 athlete, he's going into training next week. That pushes me through because now he couldn't walk and now he's going through, rigorous, D1 soccer training. That helps you because in medicine we have that. We have that feel good. Hashem runs the world and he does everything, but like you can feel good about the stuff you do, the people that you help.
Yeah, you're starting being a broker for it if you think about it like that. You want to think about it like that.
And then there's like 2 strategies which I tell a lot of people to employ. You do this with your notebooks. To avoid burnout, anyone can really do this. One thing is you're constantly hit with things in a million different directions, right? So you constantly have tasks and objectives that you have to complete, whether you're, manager who's running 10 businesses or me who's opening up a shop. But you're constantly flooded with things. So what I tell people, this is the easy thing, everyone can do it, is when you're hit with something, but you're working on something, write it down. And then forget about it. Even if it's super urgent, write it down. You'll hit it in 5 minutes. Hit with another thing, write it down. Move on. Write it down, okay? You're making a to-do list, but you're also triaging. You're like setting up a triage, right?
You're also offloading it off your head.
You're like picking it, you're taking it from your brain and putting it on the paper. So it's not here anymore. But you have to do that because you will burn out if you don't. There's too much going on in our lives. Pull it and put it. Pull it and put it. And when you hit the list, like I did like 2 weeks ago or something, I had a list like down to the page. At the end of the day, I looked at the list because I like literally did not have time before then. And I was like, I don't really have to do any of this. But I thought I did in the moment so much that I stopped and I wrote it down. But then I was like, that was just like the Eights of Horror. That was my ADD kicking in. So that's one thing. Just pull it and put it down and then like move on for a little bit. And the second thing, which I think is my own system, which will prevent burnout for everyone, is I really think it's important to bucket people. So what does that mean? I call it the 3 C's, and I put everyone into one of the C's. And it surrounds me by people that will grow me and not push me down or burn me out. If you're surrounded by the wrong people, you will burn out super quick. Naysayers, mean people, incompetent people, they will just destroy you. They're like a cancer. So I call it like the 3 C's for social buckets. One is competency, C for competency. If they are very competent in their field. So there's a few physicians that I ask all my questions to because they are the most competent and they're in my competency bucket. And you only need a few people. So I call those the competent people. Then you have another type of people, which is the connected people. You have people that have 0 competency. They don't know anything about what you're talking about, but they're crazy connected. So I know a CEO of a giant hospital in New York does not fall in the competency category and hasn't really helped me in a whole lot of ways, but is crazy connected. Every time I meet someone, I call him, he gets me the exact right person or exactly what I need. And he's very connected. So competent, connected. And then the middle, which is actually my favorite bucket, is the compatible. So compatible is somebody that, they may have competency or they may be connected, but they're just very compatible personality-wise. So you can talk to them. They understand you. You speak the same language. You can spitball back and forth with them. And you just enjoy talking to them. And like you make progress when you talk to them. You actually fall in my compatible section.
Appreciate that.
Like in my world of
medicine, you're randomly WhatsApp me. Like random things. But I love it.
You have competency and you have connections, whatever. I don't really need like Florida real estate connections really. And the competencies that I'm using for my business, like you have a lot of competency. So you would fall in that a little bit, but you are in my compatible category. I can talk to you about a lot of things And like, we'll schmooze every once in a while. We'll talk about like merch and stuff, or like we'll offload some things sometimes. But those people don't need anything besides to be. So that's like your wife also. That's the compatible. And like, I have a med student who's in the compatible. We talk all the time just because we can soundboard really, really well, and I could get somewhere with them.
Interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, I think, who are in my compatible list, and it's just like so much fun to just talk to them about anything.
Yeah. And people, I think a big thing that people do that's wrong is they get rid of compatible people. Because like, if I'm a doctor, then why would I ever talk to a med student? They offer me nothing. They're not connected. They don't have any competency. And they'll just like, they'll cut them out. I see it all the time. But one, you can learn something from everyone. And two, everyone can serve a different function. So that he may have more time, or he may like you a lot, or he may enjoy talking to you as much as you enjoy talking to him, and you'll gain a lot from that relationship. So I think the compatible bucket prevents you from losing connections that are really beneficial to you. And it turns out, like the medical student that I'm thinking about ended up having like a connection here or whatever, nothing that really mattered. But if people don't fall in any of those buckets, then they for sure like just got to go. Or if they're pushing you down, they'll burn you out. You know, if you have people that serve really no purpose, have none of that, or are naysayers, you can avoid burnout just by kind of clearing your social docket a little bit.
Mm-hmm. No, I found that kind of what you're saying, like in general, people who are naysayers or people who, they're usually people on the sidelines who aren't really doing anything. Yeah. And they're always just like, oh, why are you doing this business? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you doing, like, it's always because they can't essentially see themselves doing any of those things, or they can't see themselves doing, like, you know, taking on debt and doing medical school and doing something that's scary and putting themselves out there. It's like, oh, don't be a doctor. You're going to have all this debt and you can do this. Like, it's like, okay, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm a biology teacher. It's like, oh, okay. You know, so, I mean, I'm not taking shots at anyone, but it's just like, it's very true. It's very, I never heard anyone's, like, I never heard the 3 C's. I've heard all the cliches of like, you know, like, and I live to this one is like, surround yourself with the 5 people that you want to be like, or that the average, I always say this in like every podcast, but you're the average of the 5 people you spend time with in every way, health wise, like how fit you are, like, wealth wise, like how wealthy you are, your mindset, you know, are you like a negative, positive person? Like, cause those people really rub off on you in every way. Yeah. So but I never heard it categorized like competent, connected, compatible. I wrote it down. Yeah. That's because I knew my brain, kind of what you're saying. I offloaded it while you were speaking on the paper here, because I knew I'd be like trying to like memorize it the whole time. Yeah. Very cool. So I want to jump into vaccines. I mean, that's a fun topic. I don't want to get too political on it, but COVID is kind of when everyone started doubting vaccines, right? Because then I could be wrong, right? For everyone listening, I felt like vaccines are like, everyone just takes vaccines. No one thought about it, right? Right? Well,
we thought about it a lot.
I mean, you guys didn't think. We just took them. Yeah. But then COVID happened, and people felt like it was being, you know, well, the vaccine got approved super quick. I'm not by no means any doctor. I'm not, you know, not trying to say I have any expertise. So I don't want anyone to take this out of context. But, right, it got approved very quick. And it was like, you have to take this. Everyone was being forced down in your throat. Like in New York City, I couldn't go to a restaurant unless I showed that card. Yeah. So it felt a bit like Nazi Germany for a lot of people. Yeah. So people were started, I feel like since then, people have started to doubt the medical system. People with no experience. Like people even like me, like, oh, well, I don't have to take this vaccine. I don't even know what this vaccine is. Yeah. Right. But I want to touch on that. Like, you know, why do you think people lost their trust? And also, someone was telling me, maybe it was my wife, I don't know. But vaccines used to be like, whatever it was, you took like 1 dose, right? Whatever the vaccine was. Now I feel like you take 4 or 5 doses of like the same thing. It's like, dude, like, why do you have to inject me 5 times? Like, what the heck? Are you trying to make more money? And people say it's big pharma. And so I want to touch on all those questions, kind of.
Wow. Okay, so if we have 5 hours, but we can do it quickly.
No, we'll do a 5-minute one, because we're almost an hour in, and I still have like a lot more little topics I want to touch on here.
So there's a few things. I'm not going to go for, against, or do anyone who's in my immediate circles has had me talk about vaccines, because everyone constantly attacks me in Bayswater about vaccines because I'm a doctor. But let's talk about COVID and the impact that had on the healthcare system and on the general population, just from a global perspective, right? We had something that none of us have ever gone through, which was a pandemic, right? And it was a rapidly evolving situation. If you were in New York and you were in the 5 major boroughs and you were there when COVID broke out, then you were in the emergency departments and you were watching people just die. In the hospitals, in Code Island Hospital, where I did my internship, every 6 minutes, a code bell went off. You never hear codes. You hear codes like once, twice, 3 times a day, whatever. Every 5 minutes.
What's a code? Is someone like dying?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I know that from the EMT world, but I'm assuming people listening don't know what a code means.
A code is when somebody essentially is dead or they flatline.
And what does it stand for? Does it stand for anything or no?
It's like the word code.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe it stands for something. I don't know. But a code is like, there's like a code blue, a code red, code black, whatever. There's different codes. So code blue, or a code, is like when somebody's dead and they need CPR resuscitation and intervention to get back to life, right? That's essentially what a code is. Somebody's dead, but they just died and we can bring them back. We do CPR, we give them epinephrine, put a tube down their throat, and we can probably save them. And if you don't do anything, then they die or stay dead. So, and it's very complicated. I just try to not dumb it down, simplify it as much as possible. That's essentially the code. People don't just die often, there has to be a good reason. But during COVID, it was the first wave, and it was very, very, very virulent, meaning that if you got it, it was like a very severe disease. People were just dropping dead in the ER. And on the code team, you had to decide, okay, I hear another code. I'm working on this person, but it's been 25 minutes and they're still not alive. So if I stop with this person, maybe I could save that person. But if I don't stop with this person, then he might be dead and that person's dead.
So you're just triaging on the fly.
So you're deciding life and death. It was like constant. So it was just a whole world no one's ever crossed into before. So, and then it got better, whatever. And a virus, if you think, a virus has to survive in its host body in order to spread to other bodies, right? So if a virus comes into me, it has to be strong enough to like do something and survive, but not strong enough to kill me right away, because then the virus dies. The virus needs me. So in the beginning of a disease, what happens is the very, very, very bad strains of that virus, if you want to call it, the virulent strains, kill everyone, and then it doesn't spread as much because it was too strong. It killed too many people and it couldn't survive. So then the parts of the virus that survive are the less virulent versions that aren't as strong but are still kind of strong. So we saw that in COVID. Like in the beginning, everyone was just dying. It was like crazy. Everyone just was dying. And the really, really bad version of the COVID virus kind of died off with it. And then we saw the wave of people just got really, really sick, right? But the healthcare system was traumatized because like COVID bad, that was really bad. But we have like a new type of COVID now. It's like now it's kind of like a cold, or now it's just pneumonia. But
yeah, I think I have it right now.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But we don't want this to happen, so let's fix this. Even though the really bad part of COVID couldn't survive in the host bodies and it killed all the hosts, and it didn't keep infecting people because it just couldn't survive. It's like too powerful. But it went away with all those people that went away.
Is that what a mutation is called? Or no?
It's not really a mutation. It's just a
survival. People were saying, it's a new mutation, or it's a new, I forgot the word.
I'm not a
the COVID
microbiologist or whatever, so maybe it is called mutation, but mutation is usually when something will augment. This is just like survival of the fittest type of microbiology, where like the best virus to survive is one that will like kind of hurt the host or affect the host, but not totally kill it. Because if you totally kill it, then you die with it. So that's what happened. So what happened was then the doctors are freaked out, the public's freaked out, and now we're ahead of it. Then how do you change the world to prevent that from happening in real time while COVID's still going around? So you have Fauci and all these people that are giving their advice and their mandates, and then it's just like out of control. And until the virus just stops infecting people at such high rates for whatever reason, whether it's like the social distancing, the vaccines never really helped with transmission of the disease. It only helped with the severity of disease. But it could just be the virus slows down, the season change. If it's colder, there's less viruses. If it's hot, there's less viruses. There's always factors that affect the virus spread. So so now it's simmered because it's been time heals all. And the issue was that during that year, 18 months of like chaos of like really bad and then not bad, but we're all reacting to the really bad. It was just like people are making decisions with what they could to the best of their abilities. And it affected people in really bad ways. Like there's people that got the vaccine and then died 10 minutes later. Was it from the vaccine? I mean, I'm recorded. I can't say yes, but like, I don't believe in coincidences, There's people that got the vaccine that probably didn't die that would have died. I mean, Hashem runs the world. He decides when you die. So we can't really blame a vaccine because we believe in a higher power. But after COVID, the whole world changed. My patients don't take their medications because, Fauci was wrong about this. Yeah, we were all going to be wrong about things. Like, that was a fluid situation with a virus that we never tackled before. And people dying, 1 million people dying, that we don't have people die like that. We don't have ERs full of people coding left and right. That just doesn't happen in America. And it did. So people were wrong in what to do. People maybe masked too long. People did social distancing too severe. Whatever happened in the nursing homes was like totally crazy. So a lot of people made mistakes. But you can't be perfect in these situations. I don't know why the public would expect doctors and everyone to be perfect. But people expected that. And I'm only speaking from like the doctor perspective. Like I was the one getting yelled at. I was the one seeing crazy stuff happen and then them yelling at. I'm like, Pfizer isn't behind me pushing me to do anything. Like people, if you believe in conspiracy theories, then sure. But like I never met a Pfizer rep or anything in medical school, in undergrad, in residency. I've literally never met anyone that worked for Pfizer. They may be inculcated, people say, in the training and the academies and the whatever. And then it trickles down to me on the bottom of the total pole. That's fine. But to me, that's like, it's maybe I always call that conspiracy theory because I have a really, so whatever. So then though, I want to touch on that, but the whole world then changed because a lot of doctors made a lot of mistakes. Fauci made mistakes. Everyone made mistakes. And then it hurt a lot of people. And now people are just, they're more suspicious about everything. And they ask about everything. So that's where the whole vaccine thing came from. Because they came out with this vaccine in a year. It was crazy. How did it happen so fast? Even though the technology for this new type of vaccine was developed before this, it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. We already had that technology. We just finally had a reason to use it. People just got much more suspicious. And it's always good to have like a level of suspiciousness and make sure that you're doing things right. But I have patients that are not taking their heart medications because why would you take a pill? Look what they did during COVID and look what, my friend got the vaccine and now this happened.
Yeah.
Okay, but like take your Lipitor. I don't know, like your blood pressure is 200.
I'm not taking a Tylenol. I'm not going to take an Advil.
Yeah, your blood pressure is 200. You will just die of a stroke if you do not take your medication. Like this is not like a big pharma situation.
But why? Another thing that freaks me out is, is it true that a lot of our medicine is made in China?
I don't know that.
I don't know it either. But
No comment. I have no idea.
Yeah, but if that's true, it's a bit interesting. It's a bit scary. It's like our technical enemy is making all our medication that's going.
They make
our
everything.
bodies.
Everything I'm wearing right now is China. It's
probably true.
Like this microphone,
this camera's
China.
Yeah,
These headphones are China.
Most likely. Let me see.
I know for sure your merch is China because I got it from the same people in China.
This is made in Austria.
Actually, there's a lot of Chinese in Austria.
This mic, actually the Carry Consulting hats are made in Vietnam.
Wow.
And they were made here in America. What is it called? The embroidery. Stitching embroidery was here in America. Yeah. Done by some good old labor.
Yeah.
Probably.
But the vaccine thing, I think one asterisk on the vaccine thing is wherever you hold on vaccines, you need to find a physician that will still see your kids. Because I just had it at a barbecue the other day and somebody said, my kid's having this issue and I don't know what to do. I'm like, I'm not a pediatrician. He's like, we got kicked out of our pediatrician's practice 3 years ago because we don't vaccine anymore. And I'm like, you have like a 6-year-old kid who hasn't seen a doctor in 3 years. Like 99% of the time it's like totally fine. They'll be totally fine. But like in the 1% of times where there's a growth deficiency, there's a slowing, there's a regression to milestones. Like there's a lot of things we look for on well child visits. I just urge people, like even if you're anti-vaccine or whatever, just try to find a doctor that will see you in a meaningful way.
Compatible with you.
Be compatible. It might be really hard and you might have to do something. I don't know.
There's probably like these hippie holistic doctors who.
Yeah. They just make sure they're like an MDHEO, like something.
They give you some kombucha instead of shot.
Yeah. As long as they have some knowledge to make sure your kid is okay.
I mean, talking about more holistic things, right? We're wrapping around the 1 hour mark. I wanted to touch on psychological pain, right? What was it called? The Soro method or something?
Oh, this is a great question. So this is total in the world of like vaccines and healthcare and everything's bad.
But because people I had heard people say they have back pain for years, right? And they go into every doctor, went to chiropractors, and then they, I don't know, did some sort of therapy, whatever it might have been, or they realized it was just emotional stress and then it went away. Like, how is that possible? And if you can explain that.
So the lifetime prevalence of pain is like 80%. And 70% of people over the age of like 65 will experience daily pain. So pain is everywhere, and literally everyone will experience pain at some point, right? But when does pain become chronic? So if you hurt your back, in 12 weeks, 90% of pain will go away. So if you hurt your back, 12 weeks will be better probably, 90% of the time. Then 10% of people will have pain forever. So there are different ways that the body can interpret, regulate, and process pain. Dr. Sorno, who was an orthopedic surgeon, found that his patients, even with all the surgeries he did, never got better, which is a lot of these surgeries patients do not get better. A lot of my injections patients do not get better. So he tried to explore and see if there was an alternate way to heal people. He came up with the Sorno method, which is also called like the mind-body approach, taking the mind and the body, right? Because if you prick your finger here, it has to get from the finger up the nerves, through the brachial plexus, into the spinal cord, and then communicating the spinal cord up to the brain so that you can feel the pain, right? There's a lot going on here. he came up with, and he didn't reinvent the wheel, but the mind body thing. Now we call it PPD, and I think it just was renamed anyway. But the
PPD?
Yeah, it was I think it was a psychophysiological pain disorder. So all under this world of psychological, behavioral stuff. There is a tremendous amount of research that shows that you can fix your pain just through therapy. So there's an amazing book, which a lot of people have read and should read, called The Body Keeps the Score. This was a study that, this was a book that talked about a study that was done in Kaiser Permanente in California, where they looked at adverse childhood experiences and its effect on diseases later on. So adverse childhood experiences are like neglect, abuse, sexual assault. There's like 10 adverse childhood experiences. And if you have X amount of these adverse childhood experiences, you have a higher chance of diabetes, higher chance of hypertension or high blood pressure, a higher chance of pain. So in my world, I care about the pain part. So that means when you're young and, not you, when this, I don't know, Joe, whatever, Joe has a dad who hits him, and then his mom never talks to him, and his teacher did something weird. He has like a bunch of adverse childhood experiences. That Joe's probably going to grow up and have pain somewhere, right?
Interesting.
So that's what the literature shows. So if this adverse childhood experiences does something in the brain that predisposes him to have this symptom later on, then by working in the brain, I can fix that pain symptom, right? So you don't need a shot, you don't need a pill, you don't need anything. You need to maybe work on something in your brain that will fix that. That's therapy, right?
Mm-hmm. So what, the doctor is advising therapy to...
Right. So the Sarno method, mind body, all these things, the first 100 pages of this Sarno book is all about ruling out organic causes, meaning I have to see you first. If your back hurts and you have a fracture, there's no therapy that's going to make the fracture pain go away, right? If you break your leg and it hurts, we have to fix the leg, right? So you always have to come see me or see a doctor, see whoever, I don't care. See them and make sure it's nothing serious. Make sure it's not your disc herniation or cancer or whatever that's causing you pain. You have to see someone first, right? Make sure it's not an organic cause, meaning something in the body that's causing the pain. And if it's not that, there's a lot of patients that will benefit, even if it is that, but there's a lot of patients that will benefit through very skilled therapy. So one of the best things that I like is pain reprocessing theory. So PRT, or pain reprocessing therapy. So, and you can't go to anyone. You can't just go to somebody and say, hey, can you do pain reprocessing theory or reprocessing pain theory or, these types of advanced therapy models, because they might say yes, but they will not know what to do for this type of, it's very, very intense. I did training for a year with a psychologist to learn how to even approach these types of therapies. But it is true that the body keeps a score. Things that happen to you early on can lodge themselves in a part of your body essentially, and you'll have pain there, and it'll be severe, debilitating, and intense. And through working through the childhood trauma or a big stress, you can fix your pain. And it's 100% true. And I've seen it happen time and time again. And you don't even need the childhood trauma. It could just be you're very stressed, your cortisol levels are high, your inflammation's high, and your knees hurt because you have too much cortisol floating around. So if we fix the stress, then your knees or your back won't hurt. Yeah.
Interesting. I found it there's a lot to digest when I go back to and edit this podcast. I'm going to take a bunch of notes and harass you, WhatsApp you about all these questions.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Right, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, where can they find you? If someone has, pain, someone who has pain, their uncle, their mother, their grandmother.
Yeah, for sure. So my practice, it's called Mosaic Pain Medicine and Rehabilitation. You can Google, it's mosaicpain.com. So they can Google my name, Brian Singer, MD. They can Google Mosaic Pain. They can go to mosaicpain.com. They can call our phone number to set up an appointment, 516-202-2418. It's the direct line. You can call Manicherry. He'll get you hooked up to me. Ask anyone.
Or I'll put all the information in the Spotify or YouTube. I'll put it in the description there.
Yeah, tight. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to find me.
You can tell him the YM Show sent you, and he'll have to give me a commission. We'll work that out later. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate it. If you found any value in this podcast, like and subscribe. It really helps grow this little pod. Thank you guys, and have a good one. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks.